Sometimes it's important to stop and ask yourself, what am I doing? In one game, I'm supposed to be hunting monsters. But at every village I stop at, I play a round of Gwent with the locals, instead of solving their monster problems. Or searching for Ciri. Of course, she can wait. She's a grown-up girl now, and I am a grown-up man, so I need to collect cards across the Northern Realms. But in the next game, I'm crucifying a guy who believes he's a messiah, someone who thinks he can set ill-minded individuals and mercenaries like me on the right path. It's like being on a roller coaster. One second I have fun playing, and the next there is this strange guy wanting to talk about our Lord and Savior. Then I am set into Warhammer 40k universe as a rogue trader. I need to secure my dynasty's holdings, yet at every turn I asking myself if I can fix that beautiful dark-haired woman who is a dead cult assassin. Each of these games offers us something different from our traditional lives. We can set foot into a highly detailed worlds, from the Slavic-inspired cultures of The Witcher to the dystopian streets of Cyberpunk, to the beautiful lands of Baldur's Gate 3. But you have to wonder, why do we do it? Why would I want to play a game where I crucify a guy or go to a grimdark universe trying to save a dynasty from its doom? Instead of these heartbreaking and well-structured stories, I could just launch a multiplayer game, have one competitive match in Counter-Strike and call it a day. I could get some kind of relaxation out of it, surely. But it is the same kind of relaxation, or would it make me even more stressed out? The value in RPGs is immense. They offer us a place to relax, a world to fall into when we are in a bad mood, and a space where we can unleash our creativity. You can step into the fantasy land of Faerun, create a character and travel across the Sword Coast, with a merry band of lunatics. They will keep you entertained and brew up your interest into the story, and what happens next. With such a huge focus on these characters, you might even develop a bond with them, and appreciate their companionship. That companionship gives you immense value, and can genuinely make your day better with a few funny quips.
A hand? Anyone? Ow! Perhaps I should have clarified? A helping hand? Anyone?
Games like Baldur's Gate 3 act as a great sanctuary if you give them your time. They will draw you in. You'll spend countless hours with them, eventually wondering how these 8 hours pass so quickly. Yet you barely scratch the surface of Act 1. And this is great. If someone is having a bad time, simply having a game they can enjoy alone over the weekend can drastically improve their mood. Getting lost in a journey that resembles the Fellowship of the Ring, for instance, is just a great fantasy vibe. But others might be drawn in by a culture or just a specific setting they have an interest in. When we look at the games like The Witcher, some may enjoy the game because of the books, while others just love the Slavic-inspired lands filled with the unique creatures you don't typically see in standard fantasy. Or it might be a homesick calling to a culture they are familiar with, from folklore and tales that resembles or originate from their home country. For me, playing a game like The Witcher is genuinely heartwarming because it touches close to my Slavic roots. You see a similar thing with our Czech jewel Kingdom Come Deliverance, which drops you into the shoes of a peasant struggling to survive in a war-torn Bohemia. It offers a deeper level of immersion, grounded in a real struggle and realistic expectations. You quickly learn that you can't just rush into a bandit camp and expect to take on 10 men by yourself. If you want to craft something, you can just go to Anvil, press a key and say, "Oh, I want to have this nice sword." Let's do that. You really want to make that sword? Are you sure? Great. Now you need to smith it yourself. Well, go on. Or maybe you would want to make a potion. Oh, you thought it would be as easy as pressing a key and being done with it? Oh, no. You are going to make it manually. And if you make a single mistake, well, you should have read the instructions better. This hands-on experience, where you actually have to craft and create something, deepens the immersion. At every turn, it gives you a deep sense of satisfaction. You overcome obstacles, you created something, and now you can use it. And all of this is incredibly rewarding. But games like Kingdom Come or Witcher 3 also focus heavily on political intrigue. It may not always be noticeable, but these games use themes we know from the real world to show us that life is never inherently black and white. We get to participate in these stories and shape the outcomes. Our choices matter. That's why beloved older games like Fallout New Vegas still shine today. You are dropped into a post-nuclear wasteland, shaping your fate as a courier who cheated death. You can ally with factions that represent values you hold in real life. Or you might test out how a ruthless autocratic regime works and side with them instead. As a game, an RPG can offer this exploration in a much safer environment. At the same time, in Cyberpunk, we see how ruthless victory of capitalism can destroy humanity and human nature. We can either try to somehow be better people, or let the city win. But I won't go too deep into political inspirations here. I actually did that in one of my recent videos, so you can check that out if you are interested. But the main reason I play RPGs, and maybe this is true for you too, is that these days we don't really have a third space to just hang out and connect. Sure, we have gyms and libraries, but that doesn't cut it for everyone. A lot of people turn to multiplayer games, yet those can sometimes leave us unsatisfied or even angrier than before. Maybe the match had cheaters or the mood in the lobby just wasn't great. But in an RPG, there aren't many things that can ruin my mood. And if the worst happens, well, we from Cyberpunk has the answer for that.
I'm gonna ask for a refund.
RPGs gives me the opportunity to play at my own pace. If I want to let Hanako wait at Embers for another 40 hours, sure I can. Do I want to rush the questline to get to Yennefer and enjoy some quality time with her? That's up to me. Should I let Triss wait in Novigrad until I conclude my businesses on Skellige? That just depends on whatever you are more into, the redheads or raven-haired sorceresses. I can simply do all these things exactly how I want to, as long as the game permits it and it doesn't ruin the story's pacing. And the things I do in RPGs may often give me a more satisfaction than a 60-minute multiplayer match. I am not denying that there are great enjoyable moments in a match of Dota or Counter-Strike, but it comes with a risk, high expectations from your mates or randoms, facing a team with a cheater or just running into a better players who will absolutely destroy you for the rest of the match. This human factor can heavily dictate how much I enjoy my free time. Not everyone has the luxury of spending 8 hours a day in online lobbies. Some people only have 2 hours. Firing up The Witcher or Cyberpunk for those 2 hours to finish a few quests is just a safer bet. They give you action, a sense of progression, or maybe even a parallel to a real world. And afterward, you can share your impressions on a forum, maybe you even make something of your own. Creating a mod, working on a localization, or helping a team bring your native language to a game as a tester. All these things build a much stronger connection between the community and the games. It might seem strange to think that playing a single-player game can establish a connection with other players, when we aren't even playing with them, but it is true. You can have a hour-long debate with a mate about best ending for Ciri, Empress or Witcher, or ask would you rather live as Mr. Nobody, or go down in a blaze of glory? Would you lick a goblin's foot to impress Shadowheart and steal his ring, or not?
Impressive. Though I'm not sure I want to know why you're so skilled at that.
These topics bring up amazing discussions. You share those moments with your friends, like how you smacked someone with Sir John Palustiff. I mean, let's be honest, the game gave me an opportunity to use a weapon of mass destruction, so I had to test it out on some Arasaka corpos, and I think Johnny was happy watching me do it. Some of these games even offer a co-op experience. You can spend your weekend playing with friends and sharing these moments in real time. You argue over who has to lick the goblin's foot or who gets an eye amputation from Volo.
I assure you, I've dreamt of it 1,000 times over.
That shared decisions making is one of the greatest aspects of these games, whatever it applies to co-op RPGs like Baldur's Gate 3 or purely single player ones. Having choices that matter is incredibly powerful. It signals that what you do actually changes the world around you. Something you may not always feel in the real world. You go to your job or school, pass a test or finish a project, and get a pat on the back. You get a grade or a paycheck. Those things are nice, but they are expected. You know you should get them to progress in life. But in RPGs, you don't always know what will happen when you act based on your empathy and emotions. You don't know how far the consequences of your action will go, or what they might ultimately cost you. Will you step out of your neutrality to assassinate a king like Radovid just to save your loved ones? In these games, you are the master of your own fate. You inject your goals, your opinions and your ideas into a handcrafted world, and you watch how it plays out. No one can really argue that your choice is wrong. You get an impulse, you decide to see it through, and in the end you find satisfaction in your choice. You get a sense of accomplishment by following your intuition and shaping the story. It's not like blindly following the best meta build in Dota or League of Legends. You play your own way, make your own choices, and maybe, just maybe, it encourages you to try something totally different on your next playthrough.
Blood of Von Valancius, may the corruption be washed from the warrant that was signed by his right hand. Return to its place of safekeeping. May the relic restore the right bestowed upon the dynasty.
Up until now, I have discussed games you can enjoy as an individual, stepping into the shoes of Geralt, V, or the Lone Survivor. But what if you want to try out multiple builds at the same time and really enjoy them all? As I mentioned earlier, this merry band of lunatics that gives you off heavy Fellowship of the Ring vibes can be assembled in games like Baldur's Gate or Rogue Trader. Do you want a vampire who upon first meeting tries to stab you like a proper English gentleman? Or do you want a crazy religious sister of battle standing right next to a guy who enjoys self-harm?
I woke up with a feeling of wonder, as if a field of flowers was blossoming nearby. A child was saved from death. 1,000 heretics were burning alive, begging and sobbing and howling.
And as a cherry on the top, we can add a girl who likes to bait into innards of your enemies. Like I said, there is a plenty to choose from. Aside from these highly questionable companions, that makes you question your own morality, and honestly, I don't need my whole retinue. My Seneschal could probably stop every crisis in the 40k universe by himself. But we will let Abelard handle the problems for now, while I talk about what makes CRPGs so distinct from standard RPGs.
For Von Valancius!
In CRPGs, you usually control a much bigger group, anywhere between 4 to 6 or more characters. You can play them completely solo or in co-op, and whether you play alone or with friends, there is a huge number of opportunities to create strong party compositions. Imagine it like your own dungeon party in an MMORPG, but you could play all the roles yourself, and probably do it better. If you ever played an MMORPG, you definitely know there is always that one random John the Dungeon Finder. A great guy, he usually stands in the fire while the healer tries so hard to keep him alive. Now, John is a nice guy, surely, but sometimes he pulls too much aggro and wipes the whole group. Well, in CRPG, I can just wipe the whole group myself. That's great! CRPGs give you a lot more room for creative problem solving. Sure, it might not feel as satisfying as smashing your enemies with Sir John Faustif, but having an entire squad of arch-militants in your group is satisfying in its own way. You could also try running for mages in Baldur's Gate, although I much prefer Battlemancy. You know how it is, sometimes you don't just like a specific encounter, so you make a few changes into the room's decorum and enjoy the fireworks. Just to give you some friendly advice, if you have a Battlemancer in your party, never ask to see their stash, you will start to question your friendship. But aside from character progression and combat freedom, one of the biggest differences in CRPGs is how you approach the narrative. When we play standard RPGs like The Witcher or Cyberpunk, most of them have massive specific turning points that affects the ending. It's not usually a case where something I said at the very start of the game comes back at the very end to change a character's fate. In The Witcher 3, for example, the assassination of Radovid is one of the biggest turning points. It decides a good chunk of the epilogue. You either go through with it or you don't. Then you decide what to do with Dijkstra, whatever you will sacrifice the friends who accompanied you across previous games or not. And all of this is up to you, and those specific choices directly impact the fate of the Northern Realms. But in CRPGs like Rogue Trader or Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, you don't just have one turning point. There are multiple instances across the entire game that contribute to the endings. Even things you say that don't seem important at the time can affect your party members. You slowly change their views on the world. This is similar to games like Dragon Age or Baldur's Gate 3, which act as a bridge building giants between standard RPGs and CRPGs, especially when compared to these fantastic AA games. For instance, in the Warhammer 40k, there is a constant clash between heresy and dogma. You shape your character's ideological beliefs over time. Do you care for your people, aiming to create a utopian kingdom disconnected from the Imperium? Or would you rather align yourself with the Inquisition, keep things hush-hush, and push your reforms from within so no one minds that you distance yourselves from the Imperial dogma? And this isn't necessarily just about endings. Across Ovalcat games, your alignment opens up a brand new conversational choices that can change the fate of many. But as with all reforms, you need to be careful. Even if you are truly dedicated to the icon class path, sometimes dogmatic choices might actually be better in the end. Corruption and heresy can hide even in the people you believe are strong and resistant. Also, friendly reminder, never trust your Infernus Master if he asks you to give his guild guns or offers you a ride on a train. All your choices matter, and you can see the results of your action right in the dialogue, usually highlighted in a blue text, that reminds you what path you took or how you helped a companion. This builds up a much bigger feeling of impact. But aside from that, CRPGs come with one big obstacle for some people: reading. Honestly, it is a disadvantage that I actually really like, because to me it's like playing a book. You have these deep action-packed combat encounters that you love, and then you have a 40 minutes of talking with your companions, handling matters of your protectorate, or managing a crusade, strictly through dialogue. You will read a lot, but the writing is of incredible quality. That actually helps me personally. Playing Ovalcat games is an incredible source for improving my English vocabulary. Words that I can later use in my work, on script like this one, or out in the real world. The game even has a text-based events that feels like an old school game books. You have to pass skill checks to proceed through the story, whatever you are invading a Necron Lord who stole your dynasty's warrant of trade, fighting alongside your space marine, or doing something with a pretty lady who has a third eye. All of these moments feature beautiful illustrations and such well-written storytelling that you sometimes wonder, am I playing a CRPG or an interactive novel? Those moments are vastly different from standard RPGs. In the end, they offer a deeper level of immersion and a higher tier of storytelling. It requires a lot of reading, which might turn some people away, but for those who stay, it is an unforgettable journey. Now, I have discussed some core ideas across RPGs and CRPGs, like how an early choice can affect a specific ending, or how a crucial mid-game decision, like the assassination of important monarch, can change everything. But these turning points wouldn't mean anything without a good writing. Now, what falls under a good writing is entirely subjective, yet I feel we can all agree on one thing. A game should not force its moral values on us. If I want to be a murderer hobo who leaves the streets of Baldur's Gate drowning in blood, the game shouldn't stop to give me a moral lecture about how bad I am being. Sure, my companions might suddenly say, "Oh my, that's horrific." But I might just say, "Yeah, and what?" and carry on. The build-up and pacing of whether you are the good guy or the bad guy shouldn't be entirely obvious. It should evolve slowly and come with some great decisions along the way. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 can feel a bit punishing in this regard. Choosing to raid the Emerald Grove in Act 1 is incredibly harsh, and the game actively punishes this evil route by locking you out of the companions like Karlach, Will, and Halsin. But in the end, you are holding the pen, and it's up to you to write the story. This is the greatest aspect of these games. You can project yourself or a specific persona into the world. In my recent Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, I tried to recreate Sebille from Divinity Original Sin 2. I roleplayed the entire adventure strictly through her mindset. Playing with those self-imposed rules gave me refreshing opportunities and let me see parts of the game I would have never encountered otherwise. The same can be said about Rogue Trader. On my first playthrough, I leaned heavily into dogmatic ideas, but I still cared about the people. Even as my character reached dogmatic level 3, which drastically changed the style of my ship, I still tried to be a fair leader. But on my next playthrough, I created a female character who shifted significantly towards the icon class ideology. I was making decisions that were heavily distanced from the Imperium. Some might even call it heresy, because the people weren't worshipping the Golden Throne anymore, they were looking up to my character. And honestly, it is heartwarming when crowds gather to praise your leadership, offer you new relics, and change the entire vibe of your ship. The quality of the writing supports this beautifully. Never once did the game lecture me, saying the iconoclast path is the right way, or that the dogmatic path is terrible. Yes, you are in a grimdark setting, where everything is awful, but you have the power to help your protectorate prosper. Will you ally with an Inquisition to keep things hush-hush? Or will you secede from the Imperium and hide your people? That decision is yours. Having the ability to experiment with morally questionable choices is an incredible piece of interactive art. And sure, there will always be companions who step in and say, "Careful now, you are on a thin ice." But that is exactly what makes for a good writing. Having companions who feel like a real people with minds of their own. A similar thing can be said about Fallout New Vegas. Do you want to unite the New Vegas under Caesar's Legion to wipe out the NCR and Mr. House? Sure, you can do that. Of course, your female companions will lecture you or leave you, because the Legion is a deeply misogynistic faction, but the overreaching game won't stop you and say, "Well, you see, Caesar's Legion is a terrible faction." Just like Rogue Trader won't lecture you about how Imperium is based on a 20th century ideologies. The game just lets you do it. That is the ultimate sandbox experience. If a developer writes an entire faction of people we might see as the bad guys, It is fantastic that they actually let the player experience the story from their side.
No suffering will make me forget his sacred words. Burn the heretic, kill the mutant, purge the unclean.
Then there is The Witcher 3. Here you play as an established, overpowered character, Geralt of Rivia, the legend from Dandelion's ballads. Along your journey, you encounter suffering people and stranded orphans. It is entirely up to you whether you help them find shelter with a nearby old lady or walk away and let them die. The game never gives you a moral lecture about taking care of kids during a war. It is simply an option. The main factor shaping the story is your own empathy and immersion. The writing in The Witcher 3 is phenomenal and perfectly highlighted by the Bloody Baron questline. When you enter his castle for the first time, he seems like a joyful, heartwarming guy who just wants you to find his missing wife and daughter in exchange for information about Ciri.
Take it you won't give me this information for free.
Sharp you are. I regret your loss. Commiserate. But you see, it so happens my wife and daughter are missing as well. I propose an exchange. Find my loved ones, and I shall tell you about the girl you seek. All I know.
But as you dig deeper, you learn he is a drunken, abusive fool. When he returned from the war, he found out his wife had cheated on him. In a fit of rage, he murdered her lover. Since then, he drowned further into his drinking habits and started beating her, which eventually led to the death of their unborn child, causing his family to flee.
What happened next?
Next, it only got worse. I awoke at sunset, not knowing how many days had passed. Thought it was all a ploughing, drunken nightmare. And then I went to the bedchamber, and Anna was not there. Instead, there was blood everywhere. I knew she'd miscarried. My breath short, my throat locked. I neared the bed and saw it. It lay there, a tiny thing, defenseless, on bloodied sheets, dead. And it was my doing.
But here is the great part about the writing in the storyline. You never actually see him do these things. You hear about it through second-hand statements, your own investigation, or when you finally expose him for what he did. It never forces a title of evil guy onto him. This is a perfect example of great storytelling, I would say. Nowadays, if you watch a modern movie or a TV show, the plot rarely has this kind of subtle writing, where you slowly build someone up based on what they did behind the scenes. Instead, it explicitly points and says, he's the bad guy, repeating the same obvious tropes. That completely kills the immersion. As a viewer or a player, you are much more engaged when you are kept guessing about what happens next, who might die, or who the traitor is. Because sometimes, in writing, the most powerful tool is show, don't tell. You are dropped into the present, but the real tragedy already happened. It is exactly like walking into an argument that has already started. You hear both sides, but you have no idea who started it or who contributed the most. The Bloody Baron storyline does precisely this, based purely on second-hand information, my own investigation, and my own empathy. I have to decide if this is a man who deserves redemption. Will you try to help this drunken fool make up for his mistakes and save his wife? Or will you walk away and let him commit suicide?
I know a hermit, a very wise man with a gift for healing. Met him some time past. Lives in the Blue Mountains. I shall take her there.
Might be worth a shot.
I shall go with you.
That's impossible, sadly.
Why?
You have duties. Duties deriving from your commitment to the Church of the Eternal Fire. Once we finish our work in Velen, we return to Oxenfurt.
You said you'd save my mother.
And I kept my word. Your father can care for her now.
He care? You know him. You know what he did to her.
He swears to be a changed man. And in his eyes I see true sorrow. Remorse for his sins. He will care for her. And you've a new life and new duties. To the Eternal Fire.
Fear not. All will be well. I will not touch drink. I will find the hermit. And once she is herself again, we will find you.
Swear it.
You have my word, child.
This is exactly what I want to highlight in this chapter. Across all these games, there are no heavy-handed moral lectures. No one in the overreaching narrative judges you. Sure, there are bad moments in Baldur's Gate 3 regarding the Grow, but if you want to join Caesar's Legion in Fallout, you can. And later, you can discuss the philosophy of that choice on forums with other players, creating that third space I talked about earlier. Another brilliant example is the Cardinal Sin's quest in The Witcher 3. You follow a series of ritualistic murderers resembling Jack the Ripper or another famous serial killers. You stumble upon a high reverend of the church who is torturing people who turned away from the faith. Then you find out he's being framed by a higher vampire who believes that murdering a few sinners will inspire the rest of the city to return to the church, thus improving society. At one point in the game, you find the Reverend and it's immediately clear he's a deranged man who belongs in an asylum. You could easily just kill him and be done with it. Or you can dig deeper, uncover the actual killer, and listen to the coroner confess exactly why he committed the murders.
There are other ways. Could have set up a soapbox in Hierarch Square, preached from it.
How funny. That's exactly what I did. But none listened. Instead they laughed, threw stones. Give a thought to my victims. A lecherous woodcarver who'd spend his last copper on whores. An old countess who defiled symbols of the faith. A Trebirates for whom nothing was sacred, nothing above ridicule. They did not deserve to live. But their deaths could be a lesson to others. Awaken them, scare them onto the correct path, the path to the fire, to cleansing, to salvation. For you, I'm afraid it's too late. You are a man of little faith.
Storylines like these are the best parts of RPGs. They parallel real-world society, they give you the incredible aha moments. You get to witness the atrocious parts of human nature without ever being lectured about it. Because you are the main actor shaping the story. Whether you are fighting back against witch hunts, destroying another brain, or just trying not to let Night City win. The outcome is entirely up to you. There is no developer hovering over your shoulder, ready to deliver a real-world political lecture that breaks your immersion. It is your playground, you hold the pen. But holding the pen isn't everything. Sometimes you want a reward for your companionship, maybe even some romance, with the best girls in games. So as a true connoisseurs of the fine art, let's talk about companions and relationships. Now, companions and the more intimate situations are an important part of RPGs. I hope we are all connoisseurs of fine art and experiences here. we need those romances. Like, if you are into red-haired sorceresses, I get it, I like the raven-haired one. I just think that riding on a stuffed unicorn is a great experience. But I also have a confession. You know, sometimes when you are creating a character, you need to decide, do I want to be a girl or a guy? And you need to choose carefully. You might choose to be a guy, meet Judy, and say, damn man, that's a good girl. And then you realize, oh, she's gender locked. Well, time to go with a girl. And I'm telling you, seeing those scenes is worth every minute. Getting the opportunity to witness how two girls enjoyed in a bed as a guy, a unique experience. An interesting journey for me, I must say. In all seriousness though, Judy is one of the best written characters for me, right up there with Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk. And that's the most beautiful aspect of this genre. You meet these genuinely unique individuals and you develop a real bond with them. You actually start to care about these pixels. Because when the writing is this good, you start to recognize these traits in real people. Navigating their messy lives in a game actually makes you a little more aware of how to understand the people you interact with in the real world. With some reservations, of course. If someone you trust tells you to throw a baby in the oven, in real life, I would highly recommend you double check. Moments with these characters, when crafted by writers who genuinely care about their work, are incredible. They feel alive. It gives you a great impression in your own sanctuary, making you really care about them. And every one of us has a different tastes. If you like strong girls, you might be into Karlach. I, for instance, really like Shadowheart. I think I can fix her, and then we can have an animal farm somewhere in a peaceful land. But as I said at the start, this isn't necessarily just about romances, it's about secondary characters too. Some may like Dandelion, Zoltan, others might like Gale just as a friend, or love hanging out with Withers. If we go to Rogue Trader or other Ovalcat games, there is a huge number of companions in your retinue you care about, from Ulfar to Argenta. You help them along their journey, changing them for better or worse, and guiding them to find a better ending for themselves. But they would be unable to achieve this without you. You are the main actor in RPGs. You choose how to help them and send them on those paths. It's like a good interactive movie. Do I care about this dead cult assassin who yells and rushes into the innards of my enemies? Well, I hope I can set her on a more reasonable path, where she will believe in herself and realize she's more than just an instrument for a cult.
The tenets of the web are behind me. So, why think about something that's already gone? Take my hand. Let us wash ourselves clean of the ashes of the past and step into the future.
Or do I help this lady with the third eye, find her a strong purpose and unite her house? All this is achieved by your own actions, and it's up to you how their journeys end. This gives us a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing our actions actually did something. It's not like doing tasks at work or at university, where you may never actually see the fruits of your labor. In RPGs you see it and you are always glad if you guided them correctly. Having these relationships with our companions is great, whether it's a friendly bond, a romantic one, or just a platonic. But where RPGs truly shine is showing us that not everything is always beautiful, and that mirrors real life. Because losing something precious is a natural cycle of life. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, we often help our companions deal with grief, We might help them realize it's time to let go of a friend they have been keeping alive on a machine, unable to ever truly save them. We help Judy deal with the heartbreaking suicide of Evelyn. We experience the moment of finding Ciri lying lifelessly in a cabin. All these story parts build an immersion that strikes directly at our empathy. It makes us feel like we are truly there. We feel a real remorse. It is a dramatic shift into storytelling. And if done right, it hurts. You might even need to pause the game for a bit, take a walk, and just take it all in. But this really shows the humane aspect of games. Many times in our own lives, when tragedy strikes, the death of an elderly family member, a pet or a friend, we find ourselves facing the exact same emotions we encounter in these games. We see our own real-world struggles reflected in our companions and our characters. Because dealing with such a moment in reality is stunning. You don't know what to do the moment someone tells you a loved one has died. Do you just sleep it off, or do you drink yourself into sorrow? Games can to some extent show this tragedy and maybe even help prepare you for it. It's not a massive preparation, of course. But if you have unfortunately experienced these situations in real life, you feel a deep empathy for your companions. And in the game, you actually have the power to help them in these moments. You can help Ciri deal with her grief over Westemir's death. You can help Shadowheart navigate the grief of losing her parents. You can help your friends in the grim dark universe realize that keeping someone alive on the machine for years, constantly researching a cure that will never come, just isn't worth the suffering. These moments makes us realize the true meaning of loss, and they teach us how to deal with the phantoms of our past.
In a lifetime, we endure many losses and privations. But isn't it curious how some of them have the tendency to linger? Everyone carries phantoms of the past within themselves, but not everyone is able to keep those phantoms from consuming them whole. I am relieved that I have at last managed to make peace with mine.
But as with everything in a life, our journey has to end. We must finally visit Hanako at the Embers, deal with Eredin, and close the world wound. After all we have done to help our companions, setting them on the paths we deemed worthy, we face the final showdown. It was us who made it to the finish line. Even if we aren't having the best time in our real lives, in these games we got to step into the shoes of unique individuals. We rose to power, we endured harsh trials, and we found characters whose company we truly enjoyed. And in the finale, we finally see if our journey ends well or badly, and how we affected the world around us. After those massive grand final battles, where we call on the allies we gathered across the world, lead the charge to stop the ultimate threat, and become the legends of these stories, we can ask ourselves one last question. Were our decisions regarding our companions or the fate of the city the right ones? Well, that depends, but you should be proud of the decisions you made along your journey. In the end, you should be satisfied that it all turned out great for you, your characters and your love interests. Did you end up with a succubus, building a cottage not far from your castle and enjoying your life far away from others? Did you fix that dark-haired assassin until she made that final confession to you? Or did you just rest easily with your favorite sorceress? In CRPGs, you get those massive hour-long epilogue descriptions of your characters and companions. You can read through exactly how your decisions across the story affected their fates. Whatever or not, they found happiness. How did you achieve your victory? Through wit and dialogue? Or through throwing barrels at enemies because you thought this was the best absolute strategy? It doesn't necessarily matter how you got to the finale, or where you ended up. What matters is if you enjoyed these massive RPGs to the end. Did they become your sanctuary, a place where you will spend another 100 hours on a new run, trying to make different choices only to lie to yourself and end up with the exact same set of companions and romances as before? That's all up to you, because in the end, playing these RPGs is deeply just about you. When I ask myself why I play them, it's because they give me a sense of peace and relaxation. Spending time in a beautiful world with well-written characters helps put me in a better mood. It gives me the push I need to carry on in life, and maybe even gives me a few extra topics to bring up the next time I go out with my mates. They let me find a sanctuary where I can have a good time, whatever that's changing the room's decorum with barrels, making the exact same choice while romancing Shadowheart for the 4th time, or bringing in a character from a completely different game just to roleplay them. So in the end, it's up to you how you build your sanctuary. And if you want to share which game acts as your sanctuary, let me know down in the comments. Anyway, thank you for your attention. More content to come, though not guaranteeing similar quality.